Hi everybody, it's Leah. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm really excited to do today's video because it's about interviewing. Interviewing for PA school and or for a job as a PA. Hopefully this will help you. I have to say, I thought I bombed my PA school interview and I still got in. So I'm gonna tell you how I kind of fixed the things that went wrong in my interview, and I think it made all the difference, and how I improved on my interview skills by the time I was ready to interview for a job. I'm gonna be giving you some tips for interviewing. Don't worry if you didn't get the best grades in undergrad or don't feel like your resume is up to par. I'm gonna give you some ways to kind of stand out in your interview. So here we go. Let's start with the interview process for PA school. I actually only applied to 3 schools because I knew I wanted to stay in New York City, and I figured I would take a year off and gain some more experience if I didn't get into one of the schools I applied to. Luckily, I did get in, and it was actually quite a surprise because I thought the interview went horribly. I'm gonna tell you the whole story in a second, but luckily I got into the school that I really feel I belonged at, and I got to stay in New York City, and I think it really had a lot to do with the job that I have today. So when I got my first and only interview invite, I was so excited, nervous, because I had never really interviewed for anything before other than like my summer jobs, I guess. But I was really excited. So I went in there. The first part of the interview was actually a written like quiz, and I was so confident in my answers to that because it was kind of like a ethical question, personality kind of question, and I felt really confident in my answer. So it was actually the first one done, which has never happened in my whole life. I'm the person who needs like an extra 30 minutes on every exam I take. So this was a little odd, but I was feeling really good about it. So I got brought in first, and one of the heads of the program and another kind of adjunct professor were my interviewers. And it started off really well. I felt like I answered all of their questions about why I wanted to be a PA, which if you watch my first video, you kind of will understand why I wanted to be a PA. But you need to have a good answer for the interview, right? You can't just say, oh, I want to help people. I had a good answer on why I wanted to be a PA. I was really excited to be at that school. And then it went wrong. I tend to get very nervous when I'm public speaking. Even though I'm enjoying it, my body is not. So I manifest these like very anxiety-ridden symptoms like hives on my neck or sweaty armpits or shaky voice, even though I'm really like not nervous. It's so weird. So that starts happening. I start getting hives all up my neck, but I don't really know it. I feel myself getting hot, but I'm not really like aware that I have actual large hives on my neck. And the adjunct professor asks me, so how do you handle stress other than developing hives all over your body? And I was just like so taken aback. I was like, oh my gosh, this man is making fun of me. What the heck? So I just kind of laughed it off. I was like, oh, I didn't realize I had hives all over my body. Thank you for letting me know. I said, well, I guess I handle it this way, but I also tend to do a lot of physical activities. I work out a lot. That tends to help with my stress level. It always has. And so I got through that question. Then the part of the interview that I was most upset with about myself, and I still can't believe I wasn't prepared for this. So take note of what I'm about to say. The head of the program asked me if I could explain the history of the PA profession and how it started. And I'm sure I had read it somewhere at some point, but it was not fresh in my mind, and I completely drew a blank. And I said to her, I said, I am so sorry, I don't remember, but I will get back to you with the answer. And she just kind of looked at me and she was like, okay, you know, like, here's my card, here's my email. I went home, I ran home, and I looked up all the details of the history of the PA profession, wrote them down in my own words, and sent them back to her. And I said, I am so sorry that I wasn't prepared for this very important question. I hope it doesn't affect my chances of getting into my number one choice program. And she kind of just wrote me back and said, thank you so much for the follow-up email. I did not think I was going to get into this program. Some guy made fun of the hives on my neck, and then I completely blew like the last and most important question of the interview. So kind of just started thinking like what my options were for the next year, what I was going to do. And then a couple months later, I get a very thin, small envelope in the mail. I'm like, here's my rejection letter. And I open it up. I was accepted. I was like, what? Okay. Well, I guess I did something right. And honestly, I think part of it was that I actually immediately followed up. I sent a very nice professional email, and I think the head of the program was happy about that. And, you know, I had pretty good grades. I had like a 3.5 or 3.6 GPA. I guess I did put a little too much emphasis on the questions I wasn't able to answer. But you can always make up for it. Always remember that. Part of the reason I was comfortable reaching out to her with the answer and with a thank you email was because somebody had told me, like, always follow up. Every time you interview, you should send a follow-up email that day or the next day thanking them for their time. Because there are people who aren't going to do that. And if you really care and you really want to stand out, like, you need that follow-up. Okay, so there's my funny PA school interview. Ended up getting in. It was a great program, and I'm really happy I did. So the takeaway point from that is know the history of the PA profession. And if you don't know something, don't be afraid to say you don't know. Send them a follow-up email and tell them how much you love the program and want to get in and are so excited to be a PA. Now, I've interviewed for 3 different jobs as a PA. My first job, I interviewed at one spot, my dream job, and I got it. So I only had to interview once out of PA school. Now you might be thinking she doesn't have that much experience interviewing. Who cares? I interviewed at one place and I got the job. And so might as well tell you what I did to do that, right? Before that interview, I spoke to some friends and watched some videos on interview etiquette and confidence and things like that. And one of the things that I would say to myself, a friend said to me, and whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever you want to believe in is cool with me. But I had this affirmation where I said to myself, anything you can imagine, the universe will deliver. And I just kept saying it over myself, and I just kept imagining myself at this job and imagining myself in the interview and doing well and getting the job that I wanted. It just helped. Whether or not, like, a law of attraction is a real thing or not, it doesn't matter because it helps mentally, helps you stay focused on what you want, and it helped me stay confident. The other advice I got before that interview was to act confident even if I was scared. I remember seeing something about how you want to seem eager but not overly eager. You want to be confident in yourself, not like desperate for the job. And part of that is your body language. So for instance, you don't want to be sitting there like this, waiting for the next question and giving your answer like leaning forward and oh my gosh, I'm so excited, right? Because that might put people off. Instead, kind of sit back, don't slouch like a bum. Be comfortable where you are. I remember there were arms on the chair that I was in, and I kind of like leaned my arm on the side of the chair, but like, you know, good posture, stayed upright. And it made me actually feel confident. Even though I was scared and I was like sweating profusely out of my armpits and like probably had hives, I was just like, yeah, like, I'm collected. I can do this. And it really helped with the interview. One memorable thing from that interview was I completely drew a blank on a question that I was asked, and that was, what mistake did you make on your rotations in school that you learned from the most? If you don't know the answer to like a factual question, I said it's okay to say I don't know. In something like that where you're trying to speak from experience, you should probably try to think of something, even if it doesn't answer the question, right? Like even if you can't think of a mistake you made, like off the bat. Don't be like, oh, I don't make any mistakes. Just be prepared, and if you're not prepared for a question, try to answer it to the best of your ability. Now, the second interview I went on as a PA was about a year into my first job. And it was still in my institution, but it was with a private physician. And I was so excited because that's kind of like the next step that I wanted to take. I know it was only a year in, but I was really focused on moving up. However, interview goes great. At the end of the interview, the doctor asks me, how much money do you want to make? I told him what I was making at the time, and then I told him how much I wanted to make. And it was about a $20,000 raise, which totally validated in the orthopedic world when you go from like a hospital job to a private job. In my opinion, there's a lot more responsibility involved. So $20,000 raise to me was not that much to ask. This doctor looked me straight in the eyes and laughed and said, you're never gonna make that. Basically, like, you're never gonna make that anywhere. So I was like, okay, thank you very much for your time. And I left. I'm so glad I did. I was bummed. I thought maybe I did the wrong thing. But about not even a year later, an opportunity came to me. I went on my third interview ever as a PA. Got the job with my now current boss, who is amazing. And with him, I started out with a $35,000 raise. So not only was I told I would never make the money I was asking for, I then, not even a year later, got offered a much better deal above what I was hoping for. Moral of the story, don't sell yourself short. Know your worth. Know what people are making in your field. Know the averages throughout the country. Have those numbers in your mind so that if anyone ever comes back at you saying like that you're asking for too much, you can say, well, actually, here's what everybody makes, and this is what I was basing it off of. Make your case. And if they don't want to pay you, it might not be the right job for you. Don't settle. PAs are in high demand. We are the #1 job in America. Several years now. Don't forget that. Let's get down to some more interview tips that I've learned over the years. So again, be confident. Know the history of the PA profession. Know why you want the job. Look up common interview questions like, what are some mistakes you learned from? What are your weaknesses? Everybody loves to ask that one. That's like probably the most common one. What are your strengths? Just be prepared with interview questions. Maybe go through them with some friends or family. Now, one thing I developed over the years is power poses. And I learned this from a TED Talk that I found years ago. And it helps me so much. So whenever I'm really nervous, like I'm going to make a speech or I'm giving a talk at a PA conference or going into an interview, I now do my power poses. And some of my favorites are standing with my arms above my head. That's a really fun one. Awkward in the bathroom when someone comes in and finds you doing that. Or I like to stand with my hands on my hips. It just like helps you feel confident. And in this TED Talk, she stated all this data about how it actually helps you do better in what you're about to do and calm the nerves and feel confident. So I just stand in my power pose for a few seconds, take some deep breaths, and I'm ready to go. Ladies and guys, if you sweat a lot, maybe wear a color that doesn't show it so much, like white or black or not heather gray. Don't wear gray if you don't want your sweat stains to be seen. If you don't care if that's cool, but for me, it would kind of like ruin my confidence if I had like a big ass sweat stain all over my armpits. Finally, one of my favorite things to do in an interview, which I think will make you stand out. A lot of people aren't gonna have the confidence or remember to do this. I've done this in every single interview, including my PA interview. And that is ask the interviewer questions. Find out who your interviewer is ahead of time. Usually you know who's gonna interview you or you have a good idea. Check out their background, see what they've done. Have they published articles? Have they done something really cool in the medical field? Let them know that you did that research by asking them a question. Like, hey, I saw your research on macular degeneration. Are you still doing that? It's so interesting. I'd love to be involved in research. The other thing that I do, that nobody told me to do this, I kind of just decided to do it on my own. Look up the company's mission statement. Every school, every big organization, or even small private practices will have a mission statement. Let them know that you've read the mission statement by saying something along the lines of, hey, I see that in your mission statement, there's a 20-year plan. Where do you see PAs fitting into that? How can I grow as a PA at this institution? Are there going to be opportunities for me to teach or lead or anything like that? Questions, I think, are so good for you to ask because it kind of like turns the tables, right? And then they're kind of put on the spot. And then you feel even more like in control of the interview. Hands down, my biggest tip I can give you guys is ask questions to the interviewers, either about themselves and their work or about the institution, or preferably both. So those are my biggest tips. Just to review: good posture, be confident. Even if you don't feel confident, kind of try to hold yourself in a confident way. Know about the PA profession and the history of it. Know about the institution you're interviewing at. Ask the interviewer questions, and don't be afraid to say you don't know. And finally, follow up with a follow-up email either the same day or the next day. And if you're interviewing for a job, know your worth. Don't settle. I see so many friends settle for jobs just because they're afraid they're not going to get one right out of school. You are a PA. You will get a job. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know if there's anything else you have questions about regarding PA school or interviewing for PA jobs or my job or anything you want. I'd like to give you guys the best content I can, so anything I can help with, anything that you're curious about, put in the comment section. I'm excited to make more videos for you guys, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video. See you later. Bye. Adios. Ciao.